Is this going to be too annoying in frame? Should I move it closer to center? Should I move it over here still? I'll figure it out. I'll just keep it here for now, I guess. Wandavision is the newest Disney Plus original series and the first series that will be expanding the Marvel Cinematic Universe into the television realm. Episodes 1 and 2 are currently live on Disney Plus, and today I'm going to be reacting to those. Well, not reacting to them, I guess, reviewing them. I apologize for getting this review out a couple days late. I was out of town for the weekend and didn't have any of my material with me, so I'm getting to it now. Before I start, I did just want to put a brief spoiler alert out there for both of these episodes. You should just assume that I'm going to spoil it for you if you haven't seen it. I'm going to try my best to not touch on the big plot points, but there are some I will have to talk about. So again, spoiler warning. With that being said, let's jump into episode number 1. So in episode number 1, we are introduced to WandaVision as it being like a 50s style sort of I Love Lucy show. Like, it's black and white. It's got some cheesy humor, some corny humor that, doesn't necessarily hold up today anymore, but the show, it's trying to mimic that. There is a laugh track as well, which I actually learned after the fact was filmed in front of an actual studio audience. Now, I'm sure that the audience was just as much acting as the actors in the show, but still, that was kind of, I think, a cool thing to know. Now, it's all black and white for the entirety of the episode, but we as viewers, we know that something's going on. Like, anyone who's watching this show has either seen the trailers for the show or we've seen the Marvel movies, and we know that something is up. And I guess my one main criticism of this show is that we don't get enough of that, like, intrigue. They don't drop enough hints in this episode to kind of keep us guessing, to make us want to know what else is going on. It's pretty much just a black and white, old, 50s style sitcom, with the exception of 2 things, which I'll talk about in just a second here. The only 2 things that they really give us regarding, I guess, like, what's kind of going on in the show as a whole is, so there's one scene where Vision's boss and his wife are over for dinner, and the boss starts choking, and everyone just kind of freezes up and pauses, and like, they don't react sort of naturally to the situation. They're all just kind of watching him choke, like, on the ground. And after maybe a minute or so, Wanda's like, Vision, save him. And Vision phases his hand into the guy's throat and pulls out whatever he was choking on. So just the way that the characters were kind of interacting in that situation, it was unnatural. It was uncanny. We knew that something was up. And at the end of the episode, as the credits for the black and white show WandaVision are rolling, the camera pans out, and we see that that show had been being broadcast on a TV, on a tiny screen, on like a pretty big wall of screens, and there's some person sitting there. We only see like kind of the back camera angle of them, and they just turn off the TV, and that's the end of the episode. So again, we only get a couple of really brief hints, I guess, as to what's going on in the show, and that was really the only main criticism I had of it. I just wanted more. So for episode number 1, I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10. Episode number 2, I'm going to start off by saying I liked a lot better than episode 1 for the reasons I'll talk about now. This episode starts with Wanda and Vision laying in their beds at night, and they hear this like loud noise outside their window. The next morning they wake up and they're talking in their living room downstairs. And it's not obvious, it's very subtle, but they're in a different house than they were in the first episode. The stairs are in a different position, the decor is different. Wanda also has what looks to be a slightly updated wardrobe. So I'm also thinking they've changed time periods. The opening credits also cues me to think that they may be in a different time period. So the opening credits in the first episode, it's like a live action montage of them getting married and moving into their house. The opening credits for episode 2 is like a Jetson style where it's all animated and they're like all, characterized and stuff like that. So that leads me to believe it's not only a different house, but maybe also a different time period as well. So Wanda and Vision are talking, and Wanda goes out to the front yard where she finds in the bushes in front of their house a tiny toy airplane. Now, what's unique about this toy airplane is that it is in color. It's red and yellow in contrast to everything else around them, which is black and white. And that was the first kind of hint in this episode that made me like this episode more, because there's a lot more of kind of hints being sprinkled throughout this episode than there were in episode number 1. Another hint kind of that they drop in this episode, there's a scene where Wanda is talking to like the head like housewife of the neighborhood, and the housewife, I think her name is Dottie if I remember correctly, she's like, I know who you are, I know who your husband is. And I can't remember exactly what happens, but somehow her hand gets cut and it starts to bleed red. So again, it contrasts to the color. And then this is also a scene from the trailer where while they're talking, there's a radio and you hear a guy on the radio and he goes, Wanda, Wanda, who's doing this to you, Wanda? So again, just another hint that's being dropped. At the end of the episode, Wanda and Vision are outside of their house, and just down the road, a manhole cover is kind of like shaking, and this dude in a beekeeper outfit just, climbs up out of it, and he turns and looks at them, and we can't see his face, so we don't know exactly who it is. It might even be a girl. I don't know. I'm just assuming it's a guy. And then Wanda just goes, no, and she does something and rewinds the whole episode to the very beginning where her and Vision are talking in their living room, and I can't remember which of these two things happens first, but they both happen. She turns everything to color and she's pregnant all of a sudden, just out of the blue. So again, this episode has a lot more of those types of things that lead the viewer to want to know what's going on more than the first episode. I still wanted more, but I like this episode better than the first one, so I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Now, there were two things that both episodes have that didn't necessarily play into my rankings or my rating for each episode, but I still wanted to touch on them. Each episode has like a commercial break where midway through the episode, there's a commercial that comes on for a product being sold. In the first episode, it is a Stark Industries toaster. So, and it's funny because they put the toaster in and it makes the like sound of Tony's, hand things kind of whirring up, iconic, you know it when you hear it. And the second advertisement is for a watch, a Strucker watch. And Strucker, if you don't remember, he was the guy from Hydra who was responsible in Age of Ultron for studying Loki's staff and also for kind of studying Wanda and Quicksilver, her brother. I think it's the same two people in both advertisements. It's a man and a woman. The man for sure I know is the same, but the woman's like outfit and kind of hairstyle changes so significantly from the two. It's kind of hard to tell, but I'm pretty sure it is. I also want to talk about the end credits. Each of these episodes has about 7 minutes worth of credits at the end, which is a lot considering they only have about half an hour of runtime. The first episode is just under 30 minutes. The second one's just over 30 minutes. And when you have 7 minutes of credits in that amount of show, it can be frustrating because you're expecting more show when you see the runtime of 30 minutes. Like, oh, this is going to be almost 30 minutes, but it's really closer to 20. Now that can be a negative. I'm going to try to spin it into a positive. Most feature-length movies have about 7 minutes of credits. From what I've watched so far on Disney Plus with The Mandalorian, from what I've seen in the trailers for all of these Disney Plus Marvel shows, from what I've seen in the MCU movies, I think I can speak for myself and others. We're expecting like movie quality TV shows here. Like we expect it to be movie quality. I know that doesn't come across in the first 2 episodes really at all because they're trying to like imitate a specific style from a long time ago that wouldn't have required, a bunch of people working on it. I'm hoping and predicting that when things in the show kind of kick into gear, we do see that 7-minute credit runtime become worth it. And there are no post-credit scenes either. When the credits started rolling, I was like 7 minutes, and I kind of scrubbed through on my iPad. I was like, nope, this is just all straight credits. So again, in the first 2 episodes, it's kind of annoying, but I am anticipating that it'll become worth it later in the show. So the first 2 episodes of Wandavision, I enjoyed them, but I wanted more. I'm hoping that the next couple episodes that come out just exponentially increase the amount of stuff that we're given regarding what's actually going on. I'm wondering if you all felt the same, so if you watched it, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and please be sure to stay tuned this upcoming weekend when I post my video for the next 2 episodes.